Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Becca and today Becca's Bookopoly is picking my O.W.L.S TBR. Okay guys, so you know the drill. We are now on round 4 of Becca's Bookopoly. This is the TBR game that I play to select my TBR every month. I'm not going to go into a full tour of the board or the rules of this game here, but if you have missed any of the other installments of this series, I will link the very first video up here where there is a full board tour and an explanation of what is going on here. So aside from the crazy Bookopoly aspect of this TBR, the O.W.L.S Magical Readathon is also going on throughout the entirety of April. The Magical Readathon is my favourite readathon. I took part in every round last year and I intend to take part in every round this year. However, combined with Bookopoly, it is even more of a challenge because last year I went for all 12 O.W.L.S and this year I intend to do the same. So for those of you who don't know what the O.W.L.S Magical Readathon is, it is based on the ordinary wizarding levels. I think that's what they're called, from Harry Potter, and each prompt corresponds to a subject that is taught at Hogwarts. The idea is that you read a book and you pass that lesson. So I didn't print anything out because I'm horrible at printing things out and I never do it, but essentially the career that I'm going to be going for is the Magizoologist career, and for that I need potions, charms, herbology and care of magical creatures, I think. Regardless, what I am aiming to do this month is to match every single Bookopoly roll to every single O.W.L.S Magical Readathon prompt. And you know what that means, guys, right? There's 12 prompts. That means we're doing 12 rolls. So I don't intend to actually read all 12 of these books. 12 is a big push for me, and at least one of the books I want to read in April is enormous. So like when we play Bookopoly normally, we will have our standard set of rolls, which is 5. If I roll doubles, it adds them on. That will be the TBR that I have to complete in April. Everything else is a bonus. For the additional Bookopoly books, I will proceed to read them in order, and whichever book is the last book I complete in April, that is where we will start rolling when we build our TBR for May. So before we get started with the rolls, let's take a look at what I managed to read in March. So here are the 6 books that I had to read in March. Now I am slightly pre-filming this video because I have a very busy week ahead of me and I won't be around at the weekend to film. So I still have a few days to get through this TBR. But essentially I had Girls of Paper of Fire for a culturally diverse book. I read that. Bonfire was a chance card. I read that one. Priory of the Orange Tree was to read an adult fantasy. I've read that one. Rebecca was for the challenge to read a classic. I am about 25% of the way through this. Then we had a library book and I actually substituted my choice for Empire of Sand, which I've had to return to the library, and I DNF'd that because I was bored halfway through. And then we have SciFi Neil Shusterman, which I have not started yet, and that was for the viewer recommendations prompt. After all of that, we are finally ready to get into our first roll out of 12. Okay, so last month we ended on viewer recommends, and let's get into our first roll. 6. Which is a mystery thriller. So roll number 1 was to read a mystery or a thriller, and for that I have selected You by Carolyn Kepnes. This is an adult thriller, I think more than a mystery, and it is told in second person. So essentially the book is addressing you, so it's like you stepped up to the train platform, you went into the shop, and it is the story of a guy who is stalking this girl that he meets because he wants to be in a relationship with her, and the second person narrative is designed to make it really, really creepy. I have wanted to read this for a while because there is a Netflix show, or I'm not sure if it's Netflix, but it's on Netflix, with Penn Badgley as the stalker guy, and apparently it's very polarizing because while it is creepy as all hell, the stalker guy is really charismatic when he's actually talking to the girl, and it just messes with your mind. As every single Bookopoly prompt this month has to match up with an O.W.L.S Magical Readathon prompt, this one will complete the charms prompt, which is to read an adult book. Number 2. 10. adult fantasy. I am so glad that adult fantasy came up this month because I really need to read Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. As you guys may know, I am hosting a read along of the entire A Song of Ice and Fire series. We are reading one book every 2 months, and the book for March and April is A Clash of Kings, and I have not started it yet. So I am so glad that I can get it into my Bookopoly TBR. I'm not going to tell you what this is about because I'm pretty sure all of us know what Game of Thrones is about, but this is the second book in the series. And for the O.W.LS Magical Readathon, it will complete the Potions Challenge to read a sequel. Number 3. Another adult fantasy. Adult fantasy again. I am being spoiled this month. So my next adult fantasy read is going to be Every Heart a Doorway by Seanan McGuire because I feel like I need to pair that chunky Game of Thrones beast with a small novella. So the Every Heart a Doorway series follows a group of children who are in Eleanor West's home for wayward children, and they are there because they have visited portal worlds like Narnia and have then returned to the normal world and are struggling to acclimatize to regular everyday society. This is going to be a reread for me. I did read this a while ago. I got it out of the library for the rereadathon but did not manage to fit it in then. I did read the first chapter though and I really enjoyed it, so I am still interested in reading this. And for the Magical Readathon, it will fulfill the herbology prompt, which is to read a book with a plant on it. And as you can see, despite the glare, there are trees in the background of this book cover. Number 4. 2 and a double, which is a science fiction. We rolled a double yet again, because of course we did, but this time we landed on sci-fi, which is one of my favourite genres, and I am really eager to be continuing the Wayfarer series with A Closed Uncommon Orbit by Becky Chambers. Back in, I think, February, I read the first book in this series, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet, but this is essentially a very character-driven science fiction series that follows different groups of people travelling through space. While they are companion novels, I do think they are vaguely linked up, and I believe that this one follows the AI from the first book, and I'm so excited to get back into this because the first book in this series could possibly be my best book of the year so far. Regarding my owls, this book will stand in for the divination prompt to read a book set in the future. 5, 11, which is our first community shelf, and it is to read another booktuber's legacy book. Okay, so not only did we get our first ever card pull last month, this month we get our first ever community shelf pull. And this is to read another booktuber's legacy book. Now, if you don't know what a legacy book is, it is the book that you think of when you think of a certain booktuber. For example, Chelsea Dolling Reads would be The Hating Game. Julie from Pages and Pens would be The Serpent King, is it, by Jeff Zetner? So essentially, when I put this challenge into the community shelf, I intended to pull them from a jar. However, as we are doing the O.W.LS Magical Readathon, I can't really leave anything to chance. I need to know what I'm reading so I can fulfill all of these prompts. So I have picked a book that I have out from the library, which is The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. I'm going to go with that pronunciation. This is the first book in the Witcher series, and I associate this with Elliot Brooks. Elliot Brooks is also known for Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere, but as I had this out from the library, I thought it would be the perfect time to read it because I know it's one of Elliot's favourite things ever. So the Witcher series follows Geralt, who is a monster slayer. It is a very dark, grim, fairy tale-esque series, and the first book is actually a collection of short stories, so I'm not sure if that's going to make it harder for me to read or faster because I can break it up into sections, but short stories aren't my favourite, so I guess we'll see. For the Magical Readathon, this will fulfill History of Magic, which is to read a book that was published at least 10 years ago, and this was originally published in 1993, and I think it was translated around 2007. Number 6, 9, to read a contemporary or a romance. So my final mandatory Bookopoly book is going to be a contemporary, and for that I have chosen The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. I don't know a huge amount about this. I have read Everything, which I believe is also by Nicola Yoon, but I believe that this is the book that follows two people who meet in possibly New York City, and they only have the day to spend together because at the end of the day or the following morning, the girl's family is going to be deported back to Jamaica, and she will have to leave her old life behind forever. I haven't heard amazing things about this, but I haven't heard anything bad either. It kind of seems to just be a standard contemporary, but I'm actually kind of excited to read this as I have had it for quite some time, and contemporaries are always great for speeding things up a little bit. For the magical readathon, I will be using this for astronomy to read a book with star in the title. Number 7. 4. Culturally diverse setting. Okay, so bonus roll number 1. One of my favorite prompts on the board is to read a culturally diverse book, and for this I have another library book. Apparently this is the month of clearing through all of the library books, and that is Memoirs of a Polar Bear by Yoko Tawada. This is translated from Japanese. It is by a Japanese author. I'm not sure of the setting, but I would assume it is Japan. And this is a magical realism story, which is literally the most bizarre thing I've ever heard, which is why I picked it up. So this book follows 3 generations of polar bears. One is a memoirist, one performs in a circus, and one is raised in a zoo. However, these bears are also authors and are in the process of writing their life stories. Now, I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about this. Magical realism isn't always my favourite. As well as that, I don't want it to be sad because sad animal stuff kills me. But honestly, the premise of this book was too bizarre for me to pass up, and I've been like so intrigued and excited to get to this for the longest time. This is going to take care of magical creatures, and the prompt for that is to read a book with a land animal on the cover, and as you can see, we have a polar bear. Number 8. Another community shelf. This one is to read the lowest rated book on your Goodreads TBR. Okay, so this month is madness. I have another community shelf pick, and this is to read the lowest rated book on my Goodreads TBR. Now, I have been criticized before because my Goodreads TBR is a hot mess. It contains every book that I've ever said that I've wanted to read, as well as every book that I own that I have to read. So this could have literally been anything. As it stands, it is a book that I do not own, and it has an average rating of 2.79 stars, and I'm unsurprised to tell you that it is After Alice by Gregory Maguire. Now, I read Wicked, and the second book in the series is Son of a Witch by Gregory Maguire a while ago, and I also read another one of his books, and I kind of liked them. But the thing with Gregory Maguire is that I absolutely adore the premise of his books, but the execution is not so great. I'm not entirely sure what After Alice is about, but I do know that it definitely follows Alice in Wonderland in some way. Gregory Maguire's books tend to be common fairy tales that are really dark and really twisted and very, very adult, and that is why I adore the premises. But his writing is also really dense and very difficult to read in some places, so I'm not sure what to expect from this. I'm going in completely blind. I'm gonna have to purchase this book from somewhere or get it from my library, but we're gonna do this month. We're gonna read After Alice, and we'll see if my rating is similar to the Goodreads one. For the O.W.LS Magical Readathon, this one will complete the Ancient Runes prompt, which is to read a retelling. Number 9 is a young adult fantasy. Okay, so we had a double of adult fantasy, and now we have some young adult fantasy, which is refreshing. It's been a while since I've read some good old-fashioned YA, and this time I will be reading The Smoke Thieves by Sally Green. I borrowed this off Ryan last May, and I still have not read it, so I think it's about time that I got to it. I've read the Half Bad series by Sally Green, and I really liked it, although it did take a while to get into, and this I think is more of a high fantasy than an urban fantasy, so definitely something I would be interested in. And her other series has one of the most heartbreaking endings that I have ever read, so I'm hoping for something similar from this one. I'm not entirely sure what this is about, but I do think that it is multi-perspective, and like I said, more high fantasy. I'm hoping I'm gonna love it, but we're gonna see. For the magical readathon, this completes the prompt for Transfiguration, which is to read a book that either has a red cover or sprayed edges, and as you can see, this has beautiful purple edges. Number 10. Another young adult fantasy. Okay, so we're doubling up on the fantasy again. Double young adult fantasy. This time I have gone for The Replacement by Brenna Yovanov. I picked this one because this has been on my shelves forever. I thought it was a weird, creepy, paranormal romance kind of thing, and this guy was a fallen angel, because look at the cover, that's what it looks like. However, when I thought of unhauling it one time, I actually read the back, and this seems to be about a boy who is a changeling, and when he was a baby, he was switched with a human baby, but something is happening in the Earth's atmosphere that is really damaging him, and he is struggling to survive. That's all I know about this. Really going into this blind and not a clue what to expect, but I'm hoping it's better than I assume it will be. For the magical readathon, this one will be for Defense Against the Dark Arts, which is Reducto, to read a book that begins with R. Number 11. 7. Another sci-fi. Sci-fi again. I would complain, but like I said, I love sci-fi and I am super excited for this. I'm going to be reading Illuminae by J. Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. I have had this book for so long and I need to read it. So, Illuminae, don't know what it's about. Nobody really talks about the plot. They just talk about the mixed media aspects, which I'm super excited to read through. So I picked this because even though it has 600 pages, it seems really quick. I love J. Kristoff with every fibre of my being. Not only have I loved every book that he's written that I've read, he's also the coolest cool guy on all, like, in the world. I love J. Kristoff. So it is about time that I got to this super popular series. I've never read anything from Amy Kaufman, but I trust in this. So many people love it. I'm gonna love it too. I know I am. And this fulfills the prompt for the owls for arithmancy, which is to read a book that is written by 2 or more authors. And number 12. 7. Which is to read my most recent purchase. And lastly, we have to read my most recent purchase. My most recent purchase is actually Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This has been super hyped after Taylor Jenkins Reid's success with The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and to be honest, I am unsure how I'm going to feel about it because this follows a band called Daisy Jones and the Six, and in 1979 they mysteriously split up and nobody knew why. This book is comprised of interviews with members of the band as it finally becomes time to uncover the truth of what the hell happened to Daisy Jones and the Six. I wasn't too interested in reading this originally as I don't love books about music, but this cover just pulled me in. I've also heard that it has super Fleetwood Mac vibes and I am about that life. And the way people have described it, it makes me think that it will have the same atmosphere and setting as the Netflix show Russian Doll. This will be my final Bookopoly book and it will fulfill my final O.W.LS magical readathon prompt, which is Muggle Studies, to read a contemporary. And while you may think that this is kind of historical fiction, I do believe it is a little bit of a mix of historical fiction and contemporary, as it chronicles this band from I think 1972 all the way to present day, and I'm assuming that the interviews are taking place in present day, talking about the past, but I'm not sure about that. Regardless, I feel like it counts. There's no magical aspects, it's just like a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, you know, they're mainly contemporary, and I'm gonna go with it. So that is everything for Bookopoly round 4 and my O.W.LS magical readathon TBR. Please let me know if you are taking part in the O.W.LS magical readathon, what your career is going to be. If I complete all of these, I could be anything I wanted, but I'm going for Magizoologist because that means I have to complete 7 challenges to get all of my O.W.LS, which is a lot more achievable than reading everything. But that is it from me today. Please don't forget to like this video if you liked it and subscribe if you want to. If you head into my description box, you'll find a link to my Goodreads, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to follow me on any of those, as well as a link to my Bookish body butter and candle website, the Instagram for that, and a 10% off discount code. But that's it from me today, guys. Bye!
Oh, you bite your friend like chocolate. You say you'll go where nobody knows, with guns hidden under our petticoats. We're never gonna quit it, no, we're never gonna quit it, no.